Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. This following testimony is going to be from the father of the Carlson group. This is the older gentleman who is the father of Dante and it was Anthony. It was supposed to be his birthday celebration that day. Then Maddie Cohen told him that it was her birthday celebration. I find it interesting what he says about their previous tubing outings and why they're no longer going to certain areas. I'm not saying it's 100%. However, I would say that it's probably they're a rowdy group. Let's leave it at that. They're a rowdy group and they hang out with rowdy people. That's probably the nicest way I can say it. I know some of y'all disagree with me. It's okay. But I've trimmed this down to get to the heart of the matter. And let's get to it.
Mr. Smith, or Mr. Anderson.
Can you please state your first and last name for the record?
Quentin Carlson.
And please spell your last name.
Carlson.
Can you go by a nickname sometimes?
Q.
And how old are you?
50, sorry.
Are you in the yellow shirt there?
I am.
Okay. And so you were tubing with these folks on July 30, 2022?
Yeah, my birthday.
Was that your actual birthday?
Yes, sir.
And had you tubed on that river before?
I had, but not in years. Normally we went down the Namakagon, but due to some issues we'd had there, we changed the venue. We had come around a bend and noticed a group of teens that were calling and beckoning us to come help them. At that point, I had told my boys to stop our tubes, and I observed for a minute. And at that point, I saw Mr. Miu charge their tubes and stop the tubes from progressing down the river. I saw him acting in an aggressive and drunken manner, and I just thought that it probably was going to end badly if it didn't de-escalate. I asked my two boys to go over there and make sure nothing happened. I never dreamed it would turn into what it did. At that time, the boys were all sitting in their tubes, but the way he was acting and the way he was, he was literally standing, the tubes had kind of wrapped around his legs, and he was stopping the tubes from going down the river. And I thought at some point, the boys at that point were still calling out for us to come help them, but I thought if those boys get off their tubes, they're going to beat the brakes off of this guy. And he's drunk and, obviously wasn't making good decisions. So we own a bar, and my boys are good at de-escalating fights and calming people down. And so I told Tony to go over there, and I told Dante to follow him. The girls were the first off their tubes and had run over there ahead of it. But it was Tony and Dante that I had asked to go over there.
And did you, at some point, did the incident turn physical?
It did. And to be honest with you, I was still across the river. The river was very rocky at that point, and I don't walk so well. But Maddie had come running to me. He punched me, and the next thing I knew, I had a string of boys running at me. First my son Tony, and then Dante yelling, "Daddy, stab me." And I just remember thinking, stabbed you with what? I was bewildered, and I just didn't realize what was going on until I saw AJ literally disemboweled. And at that point, it just erupted into chaos, and we tried to get the kids to the riverbank. And Dante went running upriver for help. It really it was a matter of seconds, and the whole thing had changed.
Called him Miu, but fair, you didn't know his name at the time.
No, I had no idea who he was.
You didn't know the other group of tubers either?
No. I was still on my tube until Maddie came running over. It was after she said that he punched me, and I started looking at her face, and then literally within seconds, the boys were coming at me, and I was trying to assess their injuries and trying to make sense of it all, in mere moments.
Did you see anything on Maddie's face of injury?
Yeah, her eye was red and swollen.
Like skin around the eye, or what do you mean?
Her cheek was all puffed out. It was clear that she had been struck.
Given how far away you are, you didn't actually see any of the stabbings or the...
No, I saw Dante strike Mr. Miu, and I had yelled out, to stop, because I didn't know what was going on at that point. That was prior to knowing that he had hit Maddie, and prior to knowing that anyone had been stabbed.
Did you see where Nicolae went?
I didn't. I honestly was worried about my kids. I wasn't paying attention to where he went. I almost, I was looking at my kids, not looking upriver, not looking at what was going on. AJ's injuries were so severe, and I hate to admit it, but I was worried about my son Tony, and my son Tony was taking care of AJ, and there was nothing going to pull Tony off of AJ, and so I really was just very focused on Tony. I know I had sent Sheena and a couple others, Sheena and Janelle, upriver after Dante to make sure he was okay and to try and get us some help. I knew that shortly downriver there was a sheriff's stand where they monitored the river. I just didn't know how far it was. I had actually thought it was closer than it was. And so I hoped that they were able to get a hold of the sheriff there.
Would it surprise you if Madison Cohen testified that it was a celebration of her birthday?
No, it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay.
Do
you know her very well?
Through my kids.
Okay.
I've gotten to know her much better since this incident.
And the 11 of you were celebrating, correct?
Correct.
And part of that celebration involved consuming alcohol.
I get where you're going with that, but the reason we went to the Apple River, I put a limit on how much alcohol the kids could bring because we'd had a problem with drinking on the Namakagon, and I didn't want a bunch of drunken people at my birthday that year.
Sure, understood. But in the past, you...
I wasn't drinking at all, so...
Understood. A couple of things there. So you said that in the past you had trouble with people maybe in your group drinking too much when they were on the river.
Absolutely.
Okay. And when people were drinking too much on the river, in your experience, that caused problems, for lack of a better term?
Well, the group size had grown to 50, 60 people in the past, and so we wanted to keep it a small, controlled group.
Sure. And I'm asking about the previous time. I'm going to get back to July 30th, but you mentioned something about the Namakagon, so I want to ask you some about that. Make sense? That experience of yours was when... It goes to his credibility about what he's saying about today and his impressions.
It was raised in direct. I'll give you a little bit of latitude to explore it.
Your experience on the Namakagon was that when people on the river tubing drink too much, it causes problems.
Yes.
Okay. So now back to July 30th. Okay. On that day, you're with your 11 people and everyone's celebrating, correct?
Okay.
Yes? I wasn't there. I'm trying to gather facts.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what you mean by celebrating. We were quietly floating down the river until we were called upon.
Lots of different ways to celebrate, correct?
Sure.
Sometimes it's just you celebrate with your words, right?
Sure.
Sometimes people consume alcohol as part of that celebration, correct?
Absolutely.
Sounds like you weren't doing that, right?
That's correct.
But other people in your group were, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, there's a photo that you have in front of you which they're actually consuming alcohol in the photo, correct?
That is correct.
Is part of that photo in order to document not only the celebration, but the consumption of alcohol on that day on the river?
I don't think anyone was trying to document the consumption of alcohol.
It's just a coincidence that of the people in that photo, 4 of the people are actually consuming alcoholic beverages while the photo's taken?
Yeah, I guess I don't think it was, I don't know that there was any exact intent in that. You know, they were having fun.
Sure. And part of having fun was for them to drink alcohol, right?
I think you're putting a lot of emphasis on it when the emphasis wasn't there.
I appreciate that maybe the emphasis wasn't. I'm just trying to gather the fact. They were drinking alcohol, yes?
Yes, we've stated that a couple times.
Okay. Now, as you know, there's a couple of videos involving what we're here to talk about in this trial. Is that right?
Yes.
Have you seen any of the videos regarding what
I
happened?
have not seen it yet.
Okay. So there's some things that you've said that are maybe in the video, and so I'm trying to put things into context with you, even though you haven't seen the video, if that makes sense, okay?
Sure.
What I gather from you is you were watching, and at some point you see Nicolae Miu approach this group of 6 teenagers. Is that right?
Charge, yeah.
Okay. You use the word charge. Whether there's a video on it, we'd get to decide that, correct? But that's what you remember, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And as he goes towards them, he's coming from upstream, walking downstream. Is that right?
No, he would have been downstream coming upstream.
Okay. So your memory is he's coming...
He was in front of them and ran back up river at them.
Okay. That's what your memory is.
Well, that's what happened.
May or may not have been what happened, but that's what your memory is, right?
Okay. Yes.
You would agree if we were going to rely upon your memory or the video might be more reliable?
Certainly.
Okay. At some point, you look over there, and Nicolae Miu and these 6, did you know how many there were other than you said a group?
No, they were sitting in their tubes, so I mean, I didn't take a head count.
Sure. If I told you that there's been identified 6 people in that group, would that surprise you?
No.
Sound about right?
Certainly, I would have thought there was more, honestly.
Okay. And at some point, you look over to there and you see Nicolae Miu standing in between the tubes in the direction that the tubes are trying to go downstream. That's what your testimony is?
Correct.
Okay. Do you see that, sir?
Yes.
And you see on the bottom of this, it says upstream.
Okay.
And you see up there, it says downstream.
Correct.
And there's a red circle that says G2.
Yep.
And then there's 6 red dots over here. Do you see that?
Yep.
And then there's a blue dot with an M in it, correct?
Correct.
So if I were to tell you that G2 represents your group, number 2, and that G1 represents the group of the 6 people, and the blue dot is Mr. Miu, does that make sense to you?
Yes, I would say it's a little inaccurate, but we were directly across the river, not behind them.
Okay. I mean, does it look like what you saw?
At what point? Because
Sure.
during my viewing, they were all still sitting in their tubes. It wasn't until after Madison had been struck that everyone got up out of their tubes.
Okay.
And Madison was running towards me. So at that point, I really didn't see that. I was watching the kids. I had lost
I'm going to go back
view
here
of
and just
them.
ask. I'm going to leave this up here.
Okay.
So is it your testimony that the 6, the other group, I'm going to call them the teenagers, the 6 teenagers, they stayed in their tube until Maddie came over there?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, they were sitting in their tubes calling for help.
Okay. So your memory is two things. One is they were sitting in their tubes until Maddie came. Agreed?
Yes.
And your memory is that they were calling for help. Agreed?
Agreed.
And if the playing of that video contradicts that, would you agree your memory is wrong?
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, if it contradicts it.
And what you told the police was, I was worried about that group of kids against one guy. I was worried that they were all going to gang up on him and something bad was going to happen to the old guy. Is that what you told the police?
Absolutely.
And the reason you told that to police is because that was what you were thinking. That was your actual worry, correct? Right?
I mean, that was my concern. And my concern was because he wasn't walking away. He was drunk and he was absolutely being aggressive to those kids. At one point, their tubes had wrapped around his legs and he was just refusing to walk away from them, even though they were screaming for anyone on the river to help them.
Okay. Again, I appreciate that that's your memory. I want to unpack some of that. You said that it was your impression that Nicolae Miu was drunk, correct?
Yes.
And that was based upon your observation from 150 feet away for about 90 seconds?
Yes.
Okay. You don't actually know if he had consumed how much alcohol, do you?
Well, I've had a lot of experience observing drunk people.
Sure.
It certainly fit the bill.
Okay. But my question, sir, was you did not know if at all he had drank any alcohol. Agreed?
I didn't know, in fact, he had drank any alcohol.
Sure. What you saw is essentially him perhaps unsteady on his feet in the water, correct?
No.
Well, you couldn't smell him, agreed?
No.
And you didn't observe him drinking alcohol, agreed?
Agreed.
You couldn't hear him say anything, agreed?
Agreed.
You didn't hear him have slurred speech, agreed?
Agreed.
So whatever your conclusion was as to his drunkenness, it must have been based upon how you observed his body moving around. Agreed?
It was more his behavior.
Okay. And his behavior is your observations of his body moving around, correct?
Again, it wasn't because he was unsteady on his feet.
Okay.
It was the way he charged at the tubes. It was just the way he carried himself.
Okay. So you sent the boys over there because you didn't want an old man, I think as you said here, to get the brakes beat off of him, correct?
That is correct.
I think we've heard different expressions here. Maybe, would that be similar to get a beat down, correct?
Yes.
Or maybe some other people call it to get beat up. Would that be the same?
That would be the same.
And I think one witness called it getting his butt kicked. Same thing?
Fair.
Those are all kind of interchangeable
Euphemisms
terms.
for the same thing.
All right. That's what you were worried about, right?
Yes.
And part of that was based upon the fact that you saw that he was one man and there were these 6 teenagers, correct?
No. I just thought it was because he was drunk.
Sure. Okay. Would you have been worried about one drunk man on the river if there was one teenager standing there?
I don't know if I would have or not.
Okay. The words that you used to the police was, I was worried that they were all going to gang up on him, correct?
I was.
And the reason that you used the word gang up on him is because you were concerned he was outnumbered. Agreed?
Again, that wasn't my thought process.
Okay. You just used the word gang up even though it wasn't your thought process.
Yes.
Okay. And then
I thought he would continue to provoke them until they did something.
okay. And this is, again, your observations from 100 feet away?
Sure.
Did you hear any words that he said?
No.
All you heard was the boys screaming for help?
Correct.
Did you hear the boys say he's a predator?
I heard him say that he's a pedophile.
Okay.
I didn't give it much credence at the time.
Okay. You had no reason to believe that, correct?
No.
You had no basis to know why that they were screaming pedophile, correct?
No.
But you would agree that you're hearing them scream at this one man on the river pedophile, that increased your worries for that one man, correct?
Sure.
And that part of that is because when you call somebody a name that dehumanizes dehumanizes them, that might mean that crowd is more willing to be violent against that person they've dehumanized. Fair to say?
Action, Judge, it's speculation.
Overruled.
You'd agree
Answer
with
the
that?
question.
No.
So the word pedophile to you didn't have any particular concern for you?
No.
It was the same type of word as jerk or some other pejorative term?
I believe the kids were just throwing it out there, yes.
Okay. And you didn't believe the kids were speaking the truth?
I had no, again, I wasn't worried about what they were speaking or what they were saying. I just saw a situation and didn't want it to escalate.
Did you observe Dante go over there?
I did.
Did you observe Madison go over there?
I did.
And when you saw Madison go over there, did you see Nicolae Miu walk towards Madison?
No, what I saw was Madison walk between the tubes and Nicolae and tell him to move on down the river.
You see where I wrote downstream on the top? Mm-hmm. And upstream down here?
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And if I use that,
It's backwards from where I'm sitting now versus when I was then. So.
at that time you were over in this position where I had G2 before, is that right?
Yep.
Okay. And then 6 tubes were over in this direction, is that fair?
Correct.
Randomly, but does that look about right?
Yep.
And then Mr. Miu, would he be in this position?
No, he was directly in front of the tubes.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Is that what you saw?
I mean, maybe 6 to 8 feet in front of him if we're
Okay.
talking spatial distance, but I mean, he was
But he's in
indirect.
Generally that position.
Correct.
All right. And what you then saw was Madison Cohen come from this position and stand in between him and the tubes.
Correct.
So if I put an MC here, would that be correct?
Yep.
She came from over that way.
Yep.
That's what you saw.
Correct.
Okay. What did you see her do then?
She was pointing downriver and telling him to go, 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 get the fuck out of here, go.
Okay. Did you hear her use the F word?
I did.
Okay. She was that loud.
Yeah, because he wasn't, I mean, he was just staring at her blankly at that point.
Okay. And you could see that from over here.
Yes.
And did then Dante come over there too?
I don't remember the order that everyone went over there after
Did
that.
eventually Dante get over there?
Yes.
Did Riley Madison get over there?
Yes.
Did Anthony Carlson get over there?
Yes.
Did AJ Carlson get over there?
AJ is not a Carlson.
I apologize.
Sorry.
AJ Martin?
Yes.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I'd love to call him my own, but
Appreciate that. And then Janelle, what's Janelle's last name? It starts with a D, right?
yeah.
Would you call her Janelle D?
Fair enough.
Okay. And then there's a Gabby K as well?
Yeah.
All right. So
And I believe there was another, there was some of the kids' friends I didn't know, so.
Okay.
All
And
right,
they were
just
all
Matt.
in the same area around Madison?
I don't know where they were standing. I mean, they were behind and to the right of Madison.
I think some people had said they told the police that they created a wall between Nicolae Miu and the tubers. Is that what
That's
you recall?
possible.
Is that what you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. But we know we have at least, if I put a Riley Matson's one person somewhere in this direction.
I think Riley had actually walked up and stood next to her.
Okay. So Riley could be here.
Yeah.
And then Dante's over in this area.
Again, I don't remember.
Okay. Can I just, I mean, I know, I'm just trying to make sure we have enough bodies over here, right? So can I put a big D here for Dante?
Sure.
And then we have Tony's there someplace?
Yep.
AJ's there someplace?
Yeah, yep. And I think Scotty stayed back and held the tubes with me.
Scott's over here.
Yeah.
Gabby K's over here somewhere.
I don't remember where Gabby was.
Okay, well, maybe just put her in the middle for now with a question mark.
Yeah.
Janelle D is somewhere over there.
Yeah, again, I don't remember.
Okay, so somewhere here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people from your group walked over there? That's how you remember it?
Correct.
And then there was the 6 teenagers, correct?
Correct.
So at least as we have it drawn here, at some point, it looks like there's 6 of them, 5 of them, maybe 2 more that are standing there in Mr. Miu's space, right? Or in front of him, I should say.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they were in his space, but
In front of him. Yeah.
sure.
Other witnesses have described Madison Cohn as being in Nicolae Miu's face. Would you agree with that?
Judge, I'm going to object to the line. I think they could just ask the witness and not if they agree with previous testimony.
Sustained.
Do you
Rephrase the question.
Do you agree that Madison Cohn was up in Nick Miu's face?
I guess I wouldn't describe it like that.
If somebody else described it that way, would they be lying?
Objection, Judge.
Sustained.
During this time when you're making these observations, you're still sitting in your tube over there at G2, is that right?
I think I might have stood up out of my tube by that point, but yes, I was still with the tubes.
Okay. Fair to say you did not see Mr. Miu touch Madison Cohn. Agreed?
That is correct.
It was reported to you later by others, correct?
It was reported to me by Maddie.
Sure. And also by others, correct?
I don't think anybody else told me.
Well, didn't you originally tell the police? In fact, do you remember speaking with investigator John Schultz? Do you remember speaking with him?
I remember speaking to an investigator at the hospital, yeah.
I told you this man over here with the badge on and the tie and the gray shirt with the folder in front of him is investigator John Schultz. Does that refresh your memory as the person you may have spoke with?
No, but I'll take your word for it.
You spoke with a police officer at the hospital, correct?
Correct.
And you told the police officer she came, and I think you're referring to Maddie. She came. The next thing I know, she's like, he punched me, Quentin. He punched me. They said he slapped her, but whatever. Do you remember saying that to Mr.
I don't
Schultz?
remember saying that, but I may have. I won't argue that I didn't.
And if you did say that, it was because that was the truth. Agreed?
Agreed.
And the truth on that day was that Maddie told you he punched her, but others said they saw a slap, correct?
Correct.
You didn't see anything, correct?
I did not.
And as you sit here today, you don't know who said slap, you just know some people said slap, correct?
Correct.
And the only person that told you, excuse me, let me say that, when you spoke with the police, when you told the police that Maddie was punched, you told her that's the only person that said that was Maddie, correct?
Correct.
And then you used they as a plural to say what the other people said, correct?
Correct.
Has anyone since then told you that they observed any of that group, Riley Matson, Dante Carlson, Tony Carlson, AJ Martin, Gabby K, or Janelle D, told you that they saw a slap and not a punch?
I don't recall that anyone has. I don't recall having a conversation. Well, then, obviously there was more severe injuries, and those were the concern.
Sure.
And it was clear that she had been struck. You could see the mark on her face.
You've said that before. Let me ask you some questions about that.
Sure.
Where did you see that mark on her face?
It was that her cheek was visibly swollen. There was pictures taken, and they were offered, but I don't know whatever happened to them.
Okay, and we'll get to the pictures. Let me just put that aside here for a second. Can you point on your face where it is you saw the mark on her face?
No.
Okay. You don't have a memory of that?
I remember her cheek and around her eye being
When
swollen.
you say you have a memory, I mean.
I don't know if
do
it
you-
was her left or right cheek. I don't.
So
No.
do you have a memory of actually seeing it? Because when I have a memory, I see a picture there, and then I could see your face, and I could see the mark on one side or the other. You don't have that in your head right now?
She was coming at me, so I would say it would have been the left side of her face.
Okay, so, and touch the left side of your face where you think you saw it. Okay, and again, for the record, you used your left hand to reach up and touch your, underneath your left eye. What you recall is, did she point up to her left side of her face?
She came over holding it.
Okay, she came over holding the left side of her face, right?
Yep.
And when she's holding the left side of her face, I imagine she's holding the left side of her face like you did with her left hand, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. When she walked over to that group, she had things in her hands, correct?
I guess, I suppose she probably did.
Yeah. I mean, she had a phone, right?
I don't know.
She had a vape,
Again, I don't know.
and she had a White
In her
Claw,
hand or,
right? If I showed you photos that said that she had those things in her hand, would that surprise you?
no, it wouldn't, but
Okay.
I can't say that I know what she had in her hand because I don't.
When she came back to you, she still had the phone, correct?
Objection, Judge, I think it just said it doesn't remember.
I'm asking now when she came back. I'm asking a different time frame.
Fair enough. You can answer the question.
I still don't remember.
Okay. When she came back, did she have the can in her left hand?
Again, I don't remember what
Okay.
she had in her hand.
Would it refresh your memory to see a still frame of her standing by the tubes afterwards speaking? Can I show that to you?
Sure.
I'm just going to object that wrong. We know what's in the video. He doesn't remember it.
Sustained. I don't think this is a good use of our time. He doesn't remember. The photos may or may not show something different.
Would you agree if she's seen after she says that she got punched in the face on the left side of her hand and she walks over to you at G2?
Yeah.
right? And if she's seen in the video over there holding a can in her hand with the phone in her right hand, right?
Yeah.
She's got her hands full, correct?
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
I mean, if her hands are full, yes, I would agree that her hands are full.
And if her hands are,
Speculation on what might be.
it's a hypothetical.
Well, come on up, please.
Showing you picture 2657, and I believe the evidence is that this is at approximately a minute and 50 seconds into the video. Is that Madison Cohen that you see in front of you with the blonde hair?
That is correct.
And she has a drink in her left hand?
Yep.
Is that you in the yellow shirt, sir?
Yep.
And then over here, does that appear to be Madison Cohen with the blonde hair and the one-piece suit?
It's really not clear enough to say for sure, but
The person who's got the blonde hair in the upper corner there with the one-piece suit, does it appear as if that person has something in their left hand and something in their right hand?
I couldn't say from that picture. I'm not sure that matters. She came over clutching her eye, whether it was with the back of her hand, her forearm, or the front of her hand. She came over holding her eye.
So your previous testimony, when you said she had her flats of her fingers up against her eye, you're
I
saying
didn't say that.
That's what you showed. So
You asked me where on the face, and I used my hand to show where on the face. I didn't say that's how she was holding her hand.
you did. I thought I did both, and if I was wrong, that's fair. So tell me now, tell the jury now, what did you see her do in relation to the place on her face where she said she was punched? What did she do?
Again, I don't remember. I just remember she was clutching her eye.
Okay.
Whether it was the front of her hand, the back of her hand, or her forearm, I couldn't say. Again, this all happened very quickly, and I was able to see that she was okay. There was people stabbed, and that was my concern.
And I appreciate that. If it seems like I'm judging you, I'm
I
not
just
trying to
want to
give
be
that
clear.
impression. I'm just trying to gather the facts so that the jury can make their decisions. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. You'd said that there was a photo taken of this mark on her face.
Correct.
Did you take this photo?
I did not. Her mother did.
Okay. And this is something that was told to you?
Yes.
You didn't see the photo, did you?
I think I did.
Okay. Who showed you the photo?
I believe her mother showed it to me.
Okay. And when did her mother show you this photo?
We all went and had lunch after the bail hearing,
Okay.
and I believe it was that time at lunch that she showed it to me. It may have been here at the courthouse, but it was that time frame.
Okay. And do you, are you aware that Madison Cohn gave her phone to the police?
She very well may have. I mean, I'm not aware of that, but
Is it your were you told by somebody that the police just didn't want it? Is that what you were told?
well, it wasn't her phone. It was her mom's phone.
Okay.
So
That was
and,
what-
and yes, I was told that the photo was offered up, and they said they didn't need it.
The police just said, we don't need that photo in a homicide case.
I don't know how they said it.
Okay, that's fine. But that's what your testimony is.
That is my testimony.
That's what you were told by the Cohen family.
That is what I was told by her mother. Yes.
Well, he got quite defensive there, didn't he? But I mean, I think that the defense in this trial did a very good job. But I just feel like you guys, if there had not been a video, how do y'all think this would have turned out? If there had not been a video of what happened, this could have been a completely different outcome with the verdict. But there was a video, so we can't go on with that. It also gives us, I mean, I don't know if we, maybe me not seeing a video, I may feel differently about this trial. I don't know. I still think that I've watched it over and over again, and I just felt like he was overwhelmed, he was scared, and he broke. Doesn't make what he did good. Doesn't make what he did right. But I'm sorry, I hate to say this, but I'm really hoping for a low sentence. By the way, I did check. I can't find anything on the sentence date yet, so I'll let you know if I do find anything. Thanks for watching, and be on the lookout for the testimony of the teens dropping shortly after this. Be good, y'all.